Hey guys, Edgy Nigga Buttsex 42 here, and did you guys hear? The most recent Steven Universe public service announcement just got released, and it's so cringe, absolute woke force garbage. They're feeding kids this propaganda about acceptance and equality like they've been for decades. In any case, allow me to cross my arms and tell you just how much I hate it. Do you think that was like too on the nose, or like I went too crazy, or you don't care? Oh, it's another one of those quickies no one ever asked me for, but I make anyways. Stay tuned for a bunch of other stuff right now, but we're gonna talk about my new favorite thing ever, PSAs, and why some people have a problem with certain ones when they shouldn't. So, yeah. So PSAs, public service announcements. These were popularized in the 80s amongst children's content because parents had a problem with kids watching that good old brain rotten television without learning anything from it, and not like just teaching their kids themselves like a parent would. Before the idea of edutainment, media kinda just existed, and then old niggas complained about it like they do with everything. And in order to stop the influx of calls that the networks were getting, they implemented PSAs at the end of each episode. And these were actually a great way for kids to learn things when a parent or guardian couldn't word it as eloquently, or they just didn't care. What I'm saying is they broke down these heavy topics for kids to understand and digest easily. And you know what these are about: staying away from drugs, learning about sexual assault and how to not talk to strangers, overall just doing what's seen as the right thing. And these weren't really imaginative, they were kind of straightforward and mostly not nuanced at all. But they didn't need to be at the time, and that's no insult to them. It just started as a way to get parents from thinking these cartoons were only created to sell toys. But the point is, while they were shoehorned in for the most part, they still taught kids moral values, and that's what's most important. And also, that used to be what the standard was. See, now thanks to the entertainment we have today and upwards of a few decades ago, lessons were written right into the episodes with a message in mind. Of course, opposed to a little to no relation, loosely tied up PSA at the end. But I don't know if you've noticed, but PSAs as of late for like quite a few years have been a dying breed. People more often than not will make fun of PSAs because you kind of can't take these seriously anymore with how they've been memed to all living hell. But thanks to a certain Cartoon Network, PSAs and cartoons have seemed to be coming back. More specifically now, Steven Universe specifically has imaginative, high effort and well-written PSAs on nuanced topics needed to be taught to kids in an easily explainable manner. Say whatever regurgitated opinion you want about the show, but these PSAs are high quality, and they deserve to be talked about as such. They've ranged from talking about how you shouldn't base your life on what you see on social media, how you should know it's not your place to talk about another person's body type, or just how you're special in your own way just the way you are. And these are separately made from the show in a completely different style. And like I said, written really well with the conversation in mind rather than just a character telling you, this bad, this good, don't go to hell.
Drugs can kill, and if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die.
Yeah, that's real. But the problem is that they also talk about very political propaganda heavy topics like racism, inclusivity, acceptance, and telling the whole story when it comes to American US history. If you can tell by my sarcastic tone, I think it's bullshit every time someone comes out with their 15-minute rant about Steven Universe and how it's brainwashing kids, or how they just completely missed the point of all these PSAs. You'd be surprised at how often it happens, not pointing any fingers. Nowadays, whenever one of these is posted, it's seen as very controversial. And you probably be thinking, why? They're just teaching kids moral values as they've been for decades. What's so different about it now? Well, one Twitter user on a viral tweet said it's kind of crazy to them how the cartoons they grew up with told them to not care about race, and the ones kids watch nowadays tell them to care about race, and just how wonky that is. Now, statements like this and opinions like these bug me a lot because people tend to pretend like stuff like this hasn't existed for decades. You know, the PSA stuff. The person says, like a lot of people do, that when they grew up, nothing like this was on TV. And here specifically, oddly enough, they say cartoons told them not to care about race. Now I'm gonna need y'all to point me to a cartoon and tell me which one told y'all not to care about race. Which one? Matter of fact, which one told you not to care about controversial subjects in general? Was it the Proud Family that dealt with sexism? Or how about Braceface that talked about drinking and the dangers that come from it? Or maybe, I don't know, Static Shock, which had an episode dedicated to racism? My point is, a lot of these older cartoons dealt with serious and similar topics, and this is nothing new. The only thing that is new is that we're starting to talk about these subjects in a nuanced way more and more. I'm always confused when people say stuff like this, like we've never had this type of shit in our entertainment, as if it hasn't just been there since the creation of PSAs. People usually have a problem with these ones specifically because of the messages they usually don't understand, such as with this one. See, the setup with these current Steven Universe PSAs is actually from a pretty meta approach. In universe, the characters are filming a typical PSA that usually follows how the cheesy in-your-face ones always do. And then after going over the information and how it's portrayed, they go, huh, this isn't right. Let's talk to kids and explain to them what the problem actually is, rather than a simplified version that misses the point of the conversation completely. See, like this one, the most recent one that everybody's talking about now? It starts off with Amethyst and some kids talking about how equality is showing that colors don't matter and you shouldn't see color, and bringing up the age-old, well, if you're black, white, or purple, I don't care saying. And then breaking from the original script of the in-universe PSA to explain how adding this imaginary color actually detracts from the real message that kids should be learning. Because adding this imaginary color detracts from the real issues black people in America face every day. I think it's a very important lesson that kids should know. You know, along with not talking to strangers and treating everyone the way you want to be treated and remembering just to say no. You know, all the things you're supposed to know when you're older. I don't think there's a problem with kids learning to be anti-racist. If you think so, there might be a bit of a problem with you just saying, not calling the anti-black per se, but if you somehow have a problem with kids learning about racism and not like sexual assault and drugs, then I don't know what other conclusion you want me to come up with. You might be saying, even after all of what I said, that no one's actually mad about this and I'm making a nothing into a something, but would you listen to this nigga?
So yes, we are all supposed to see each other as people of different colors whose experiences are completely non-understandable. Instead, I have to listen and believe because, you see, I see color. So I'm an anti-racist, which means I have to listen and believe whatever you say in order to destroy the systems of power. Yeah, you wonder why people feel like they're under assault and indoctrinating kids into overtly racist garbage.
That's not what this is about. How is explaining to kids how not to be racist exactly? You watch this cartoon public service announcement about why a term is inherently flawed and got that your rights and freedoms are going to be taken away from it. Who the fuck said anything about you not being able to assess whether someone is wrong because of their race? Who's under assault? Who's under attack, nigga? They just said to understand that their experiences are different like you would with any other person. This is what I was talking about when I said miss the point. If anything, fuck the positions of power. I don't give a shit about them old decrepit ass dying niggas. Some people hear this and they completely miss the point. If the thought of shaping kids out of inherently flawed ideologies makes you quake in your boots, you are the problem. But at the same time, political nonsensical dribble aside, let's be honest, this always is just the more complicated version of I hate modern cartoons. People every day on Twitter, my comments, or just anywhere express how much they hate modern animation and proceed to generalize it in the worst possible way and find anything to talk about when it comes to the subject. And it becomes blatantly obvious that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Whether it be boom, modern cartoons look horrible, or boom, modern cartoons encourage forced diversity, or boom, they're pushing these radical views on little kids at an early age, as if they haven't been doing that with other serious subjects. And honestly, people are just too afraid of being uncomfortable. I mean, one of things changing, seeing as they can be nostalgic for the entertainment they grew up with, and using that as an escape when it comes to getting away from the ever-changing existence that we have. It's escapism. And two, they're afraid of having to actually think about issues that don't affect them personally. You know, issues that they can pretend just don't exist when using escapism to, well, escape. But the problem is that for a long while, because of the lack of inclusivity, what's escapism for them isn't really for others. If you look into media to get away from the real world and still see that even in fiction you're not being acknowledged, that doesn't really help at all. And a good amount of people are feeling uncomfortable that new media understands that. And one, not only tries to include everyone and talk about everything that kids need to hear, but two, that media is an ever-changing art form that doesn't just stop where you want it to. Regardless of what I want, regardless of what anyone else wants, regardless of anything, it will continue to change and reflect the world around it, and you can't really do shit about it. I know that bit got serious, but bitching on Twitter about the Cal art style ain't gonna do shit. Sure, you can do mental gymnastics to justify why today's media is crazy, but no, it's just as valuable as the media you grew up with, and it's just as valuable as the media before that, as long as it wasn't like racist. There's a lot of that. But the point is, overgeneralizations ain't ever helped nobody, nigga, and that goes for all sides. Just because you don't like how something looks, that doesn't mean it's the death of animation or the times you can remember best were better. And just because what's being talked about isn't something you like as much, doesn't mean that it's bad. You just gotta learn that some stuff either wasn't made for you or some stuff you simply need to hear. And good media will always still exist. Unless it is both new and actually bad on so many describable levels. But if not, stay mad, somebody will taste your tears. The little gay space rocks during the PSA shouldn't piss you off.
Meet me in the back when you find out why I'm fine. Somebody else last Wednesday night. Something to sit down, stand down. The rose come out of my head.
Beat like attention. Beat like attention.